Sunshine Strategies Radio. My name is Jen McMillan, and I am your host for this podcast, as well as the founder of Sunshine Strategies. We are a nonprofit that helps downstate communities solve problems in their area. So if that is your community, reach out and see how we can help. So this week, as I'm getting back into the swing of recording the podcast weekly, I am trying to move my recording and posting to the middle of the week because there's a lot of information that happens over the weekend anymore. And it kind of influences what I'm going to write and talk about each week. So we're going to try and move this to Wednesdays, hopefully, fingers crossed. But for today, I'm excited to talk to you about something that has been tickling my brain for a while. One of the few bright spots in social media, yes, even in social media, is that every once in a while, something will stop me in my tracks and will teach me a new way to see the world. That happened a couple of weeks ago while I was wandering through YouTube. A forester named Ethan Tapper introduced me to a concept that I somehow already knew, but had never been given a name for. Wolf trees. Now, once you learn what a wolf tree is, you'll start to see them everywhere. A wolf tree is usually an older tree, and it's older than anything else around it. It grows wider and stronger. Its branches stretch outward instead of racing upward because it grew out in the open without competition for sunlight. So long ago, when forests were cleared for farming or pasture around here, these trees were often spared because they were useful. They offered shade to livestock, shelter from the wind, and landmarks in an otherwise changing landscape. They are quite literally living remnants of a world that came before us. The first wolf tree I remember stands, or at least I hope it still stands, I've not been there in a bit, in Carlinville, Illinois. An enormous oak tree that seemed ancient even when I was small. There's even one here in Decatur in Macon County at Lincoln Trail Homestead State Park. A basswood that may very well have witnessed Thomas Lincoln and a young Abe survive the famous Big Snow of 1830 and 31. Imagine what those trees have endured. Storm after storm, bitter winds, summers of drought, lightning, axes, the slow reshaping of the land by human hands. And yet, they remain. Because they grew alone, wolf trees had to become strong. No neighboring trunks to buffer the wind. No forest canopy to soften the blows. Just deep roots and resilient wood. Only the most persistent trees earn the title. Here's the part that moves me the most. A wolf tree is not just a survivor. Over time, it becomes a protector. Its hollow spaces become a shelter for animals. Its massive canopy shields younger saplings. Its fallen leaves enrich the soil so that a new generation can rise. What once stood alone eventually helps rebuild an entire forest. Lately, I've been wondering if we're living in a wolf tree moment. These are changing times, very fast changing times. Times that test our footing and sometimes rattle our sense of direction. Institutions shift. Communities stretch. The future sometimes asks more of us than we feel prepared to give. In seasons like this, it helps to look for the wolf trees among us. They are the steady ones, the people who do not panic when the winds pick up. The ones who widen their branches instead of retreating inward. The ones who create shade, be it emotional, civic, or moral, so others can grow. Maybe it is a teacher who refuses to give up on struggling students. Maybe it's a neighbor who organizes when others withdraw. Maybe it is someone in your family who has weathered enough storms to remind us all that hard seasons do pass. And maybe, whether you realize it yet or not, there are places where you are becoming a wolf tree too. Strength is rarely loud. Courage is often quiet. Bravery frequently looks like a simple endurance. That oak tree in Carlinville no longer stands at the edge of a prairie. Today, it's surrounded by homes and sidewalks, a neighborhood gathered where open land once stretched. Its role has changed. It may not rebuild a forest, but it still offers something essential: presence, memory, shelter, and continuity. Before it falls, which someday it will, as all living things do, it will have to spend decades protecting a community. There's wisdom in that. We do not have to stand alone forever. We do not have to be unbreakable. We just have to grow strong enough so that others can lean on us, and generous enough to let them. So this week, I invite you to notice the wolf trees in your own life. Learn from them, thank them, and grow toward becoming one. Because forests are not rebuilt all at once. They return slowly, tree by tree, rooted in resilience, reaching stubbornly toward the sunlight. And the beautiful truth is this: the very forces that test us are often the ones that grow our deepest roots. All right, and now it's time for our news of the week, ending today on February 4th, 2026. And as we move forward, I'm going to really try to start tailoring these news segments for the counties that Sunshine Strategy tries to focus in. And that's Macon, Piatt, DeWitt, Logan, McLean, and Christian counties. So, first, I want to highlight a community's resilience. Today, I learned that in Cooksville, McLean County, the cherished Long Branch Again bar and restaurant suffered significant damage from a fire on Saturday morning. Thanks to the swift response of local fire departments, no injuries were reported. The community efforts to support the rebuilding process exemplify the strength and unity of small town Illinois. So, not only if you would like to support them during this time, you can learn more in the show notes about the news article, but also a great reminder that if you are looking to help your local community, a lot of our fire protection districts are volunteer led. So, if this is something that feels important to you, reach out to your local district. And talking about our local fire protection districts, voting is coming up soon. Early voting has already commenced, and we are encouraging everyone to participate early in the democratic process throughout the state. So if you want to get in and get your vote done early, contact your local county clerk and see what those procedures are. Here in Macon County, I know I can just pop in and do early voting now until the day of the election. And just a recap on a lot of the changes that were happening in central Illinois regarding infrastructure around energy, renewable energy to be specific. On February 2nd, the DeWitt County Zoning Board of Appeals got together to discuss updates to their battery storage ordinances, making sure that they're aligned with recent state legislation. These discussions and how they develop over time will be crucial for how the state and each county approach the renewable energy infrastructure plans. And this one hits home for me because, I'm a mom of three kids. I have worked in crisis nurseries and daycares and the nonprofit world. And this one I can fully get behind. A recent report by the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council and the YWCA of McLean County highlighted a pressing childcare crisis. The study that they did reveals that childcare costs consume a significant amount of household incomes, leading to workforce shortages and impact family planning decisions. Community leaders in Bloomington Normal are calling for substantial public and private investments to address this issue. And I completely agree and will let you know that this is not just in McLean County. This is a statewide, if not national issue. So if you are one of those parents needing childcare, you are not alone. This is a crisis and has been one for many years. And if you don't live in central Illinois and would like to, I found out that on February 9th, there's going to be over 600 acres of farmland for sale in Christian County. Now, I may want to do a story about this later on how Centennial Farms change hands and how this happens. But if you would like to own a piece of land in Christian County, get online. I believe Sullivan Auctioneers is doing that on February 9th. See if you can bid and win on a tract of land this next week. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for more information. As for the weather, I am patiently waiting on more sun. It is not coming today, I don't think. So expect a typical winter week with chilly temperatures and occasional flurries. Temperatures will gradually increase towards the weekend, and you may want to keep an eye out for possible snow flurries. Watch the weather and plan your activities accordingly. And as we move forward with Sunshine Strategies Radio, I would like to highlight more local events. So if there are things that are happening in your community coming up soon, please let me know. You can email me at jen@jenmcmillan.com or just shoot us a message on wherever you're listening to this, Facebook, social media, whatever's easiest for you. That is going to wrap it up for this week. Again, my name is Jen, and thank you so much for listening to Sunshine Strategies Radio. Stay informed and engaged with your local community because your participation really does make a difference. Thanks and have a great week.